probably should open.
My name is Mayoral, and I'm the president of Grandmothers Against Gun Violence, and we are so thrilled to welcome our two mayoral candidates here today, Mayor Mike McGinn and Senator Ed Murray. We are also thrilled to welcome all of you to this meeting, and we want to especially thank the Washington Alliance for Gun Responsibility for its great leadership, its great convening, its great support it does for the gun reform movement, the gun responsibility movement. We also want to thank Moms Demand Action and the Faith Action Network for our crime-supporting organizations of this event this morning. Grandmothers Against Gun Violence was born early last January, actually mid-December, when 4 friends, 3 of whom are in this room, got together for lunch on Monday, December 17th, 3 days after Sandy Hook. And naturally, the conversation turned to the tragedy of that Friday. And the conversation then turned to, we cannot be silent. We must do something about this. This is not the world that we grandmothers, we grandparents, we parents want to leave to our children and to our grandchildren. And so we did what these grassroots do at their beginnings. We emailed our friends, our family, and our neighbors, and we said, come for coffee and let's talk. 10 months later, here we are at Mount Zion Baptist Church, which hosts our meeting twice a month. We are so grateful to Mount Zion for their generosity. And we have the splendid and essential opportunity this morning to talk and listen to our two candidates about the issue of gun violence. Our focus is reducing gun violence in our communities. I am really pleased to let you all know that you have on your seats a green envelope. And if you would like to join Grandmothers Against Gun Violence, we would be delighted to have you. You do not need to be a grandmother. Our doors are open to grandfathers, to uncles, to grandparent wannabes, to expectant grandparents, whatever. The idea is that we need numbers in this movement. It is numbers that are going to eventually overcome some of the entrenched opposition to gun responsibility and gun reform. But each of you, by being here this morning, makes a statement, which is you care. You want to see change, and you are dedicated to that. And we thank you for that very much. You may write questions on the cards that I think you each have. At a certain point, Michelle Hassan and I will collect them and give them to our moderator, whom I'm about to introduce, to ask the candidates. So, let me introduce Jane Dolan, who is a board member of Grandmothers Against Gun Violence. Jane is a former member of the Seattle City Council, and we are thrilled to have her expertise and her leadership as part of our growing organization. So Jane, I turn it over to you. Thank you both your candidates.
Thank you, Mark. Well, again, welcome. This is a great turnout. And a couple of business things first. Please turn off your cell phones. And the restrooms are out the door, up the stairs to your right, just short stairs, and then left down the hall. We are delighted to have Mayor McGinn and Senator Murray, and they have done a coin flip, and Mayor McGinn will open first and close last. The format will be opening of 3 minutes each, questions from Grandmothers Against Gun Violence, 2 minutes each. The person who answers first will have a 1-minute rebuttal. Then there will be questions from the audience. Those will just be 2 minutes each to answer. And the questions from the audience must be written on the little white cards. Hopefully you got one when you came in. People will collect them during the program and sort them so we don't repeat ourselves and so that they are relevant. We will then have a closing of 2 minutes each. We really want this to be a positive discussion. We're not interested to know that the gun buyback didn't solve all of our problems or that the legislature didn't solve all of our problems. What we want to know is what each of you will do as mayor about the issue of gun violence. And we know that both of you really care a lot about this, and both of you have been active in this issue. So you already come with a presentment of goodwill. You already come with a presentment of goodwill and interest in the subject. I will feel free to interrupt if I need to, or ask a follow-up question. Thank you both for coming, and we'll start with, after giving you all those rules, this is a 1 minute each question, no rebuttal. Do you support Initiative 594, and what will you do as mayor to see that it becomes law if you support it? Oh, excuse me. Opening. I got so excited about the question, I forgot. All right. First.
I take it we're on. I'll stand for the opening. I won't stand for every answer, but I'll stand for the opening. Although I got to be careful here. I might just jump right off. I'll try not to do that. No, the issue of gun violence is an extraordinarily serious one, and one of which I've made it a priority since taking office to address. And it's a multitude of different ways. When I ran 4 years ago, one of the open issues was that then Mayor Greg Nichols had sought to ban guns from our parks, community centers, swimming pools, and that was, we got a ruling against us at a local level. We've appealed that all the way to the state Supreme Court. And it's not, there may or may not be a constitutional issue. I don't think there is, because businesses and prevent guns from coming into their property. But state law fully preempts cities from enacting that type of prohibition. And we're not the only city that faces this problem. So what it led me to really start thinking about was, what are we going to do to change the culture around gun ownership, use, in the community as a whole? And that's a different, did I just go out here? That's a different discussion than what set of rules and regulations around ownership. So we'll get to 594. I very much support it. I would like us to see stronger gun control laws, but we're not going to restrict our efforts to what we can do in the legislature. We have to see what we can do locally to change the dialogue. And I think it's also about, it is about changing the dialogue, and it's changing public acceptance of these issues. For example, I was recently asked to defend the City of Seattle's gun-free zone program. We now have 87 businesses that have signed up for gun-free zones. And it seems like I keep clicking in and out here. 30 seconds. Signed up for that, went on Greta Van Susteren on national news, and they were like, well, won't that just make it easier for criminals? And I was like, well, I think we have to reject the idea that somehow or another having everybody carrying heat is going to make us safer in our businesses. That's just not so. So it's a public dialogue, it's gun-free zones, it's the gun buybacks. We've expanded the Seattle Youth Violence Prevention Initiative, launched a new program for people returning to the community. That was a fast 3 minutes. I must have dawdled. 2? I thought the opening was 3. 3. Okay, so I get another minute. Do I get another minute? Yes, thank you. I was saying, wow, that was a fast 3 minutes. We have finally honed senses of time after many, many debates. We know 1, 2, and 3. So it's really about changing the dialogue. And I was talking, it's not safe to have a gun in the house, that it's a leading cause of accidental deaths. But we also need to change the dialogue with our youth, which is why I was getting to the Seattle Youth Violence Prevention Initiative Career Bridge, where somehow or another young men feel like they need to carry a gun so that they can get protection or respect, and that the slightest affront can lead to gun violence. And we saw that a couple of years ago, and I want to talk more about that. We've seen it over the years. So again, why we've expanded the Seattle Youth Violence Prevention Initiative, why we've partnered with our black pastors and clergy in our Career Bridge program for people returning to the community from jail. And it's a dialogue that we have across all of the city about how do we change the culture around gun ownership, when you take it out, why you take it out, how you keep it safe, and why you even have it in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having us here this morning, and having worked on council staff when Jane was on the city council, I absolutely know she'll interrupt us if she feels like we're getting out of line. I want to talk about this issue. It's been one that, since this is Grandmothers Against Gun Violence, the discussion really became one that we started 50 years ago. It was 50 years ago this November when President Kennedy was assassinated. And then the later assassinations led to the attempt to do things around gun control. But here we are 50 years later and we're still struggling as a nation, struggling locally. So what do we do? Well, I believe that 594 and the Alliance for Gun Responsibilities is the best thing that I have seen in my 18 years in office to try and get at this issue. And I'll tell you, and I've been very happy to work with Nick Anauer and Tina Podladowski. I think I saw Tina here. There she is in the back. I've been in a similar situation. It took 29 years for the gay and lesbian community to come up with a strategy to pass a civil rights bill, and 17 years to deal with the issue of marriage. And in the early years, basically we were activists, basically we were angry, basically we yelled at our friends and the people we opposed, and basically it didn't work. And so we stepped back and we developed a different strategy. We developed a strategy about encouraging, talking with elected officials, thanking them for when they made progress, and working with them to try and figure out how to make further progress. And I'm very happy that the Alliance for Gun Responsibility has basically taken the R74 model and is applying it to this issue. And I'm really glad that they also hired the person who ran R74 to run this campaign. I think it's just an incredibly important statement. I believe that there should be one strategy. That's really 3 minutes? I'm with the mayor now.
No, you've had 2 minutes.
I've had 2 already? Wow, I talk a lot. I believe that the core of getting at and changing legislators' minds and changing the public's minds is sticking to one strategy. That's how we've won before, and that one strategy is this initiative referendum strategy to the legislature and then to the people if that's what we need to do. And then once we've won that battle, we can go on to the next one, just like we did on marriage, year after year, bill after bill, piece by piece. That's how we were able to do it. That's why I believe it is so important. In addition, I think programs that the state has funded and I've had a chance to be involved in, such as Leadership for Youth and some of the leadership camps that we've been able to fund, that actually train youth how to be leaders and take responsibility among their peers is always a very important part of getting at the culture of gun violence, and that's education. So I thank you and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Okay, well, I already gave it away, and Ed has already addressed it. You each get 1 minute. Do you support I-594, and what will you do as mayor to see that it becomes law? Let's start with Mayor McGinn. Go ahead.
Testing.
This is an easy one. I do support it, and we just use the power of the mayor's office to to speak to the public, and of course we continue doing our work locally that helps illustrate the reasons why we need it. And I love campaigns. I really do. And if you know of any of my history, I get out there and I don't just speak up. I actually, I'll recruit people to phone bank. We'll recruit people to knock on doors. We'll do all of the work required to make a campaign win.
Okay. Senator?
Thank you, and I spoke a little bit to this, but I believe that the mayor can unite with our legislative delegation, so we have a united voice working for 594. I really want to compliment my seatmate in the House, Jamie Peterson, who got this out of the almost got it out of the House. He lost by 1 vote. But remember, Cal Anderson lost by 1 vote, but eventually we came back and we won. So it's so important to have those relationships between the mayor's office and the city council and our own Seattle delegation. In addition, as you can tell, we're both campaigners, and if it ends up on a campaign trail, we'll be there.
How do you define gun responsibility, and what is responsible gun ownership and usage? Senator Murray, we'll start with you.
Sure. Gun responsibility, I have an uncle who, when I was young, used to bird hunt, and he had guns. But they were always locked up. That's an example of gun responsibility. There are children in the house, the guns are locked up. Gun education, very important. Owning guns that you actually need for some purpose versus owning the Republicans claim that Uzis are not legal in Washington State, but there is a smaller version of an Uzi that's legal in Washington State. That's not gun responsibility. I don't know why you would need a Uzi in the state of Washington. So it is those things. It's keeping guns safe in your home. It's keeping guns safe when you're out. It's keeping guns safe when you're around children and other folks. It's not leaving guns in places where they don't belong. All of those are aspects of gun responsibility. It's the gun owner educating themselves. And it is the state, either through the people or the legislature, closing gun laws that should absolutely be closed, whether they're the gun show loophole or others. That's also the next level of gun responsibility.
Thank you. Mayor, you each get 2 minutes and you get a 1 minute rebuttal.
Oh, I say 2, 2, 1.
Right.
And then we move to the next one.
Then-
Got it. Okay. Thank you. So obviously gun safety, responsible gun ownership is important. There are people who, it is legal to own a gun. And so as part of the gun buyback, for example, we passed out safety locks as well, because one of the leading causes of accidental death of our youth is guns in the home. In fact, the other issue we have around guns is suicides. That's the other frequent use of guns. If a gun's available, much more likely that a suicide attempt will be fatal. And oftentimes the moment passes with people who have those feelings, and that's one of the dangers of having guns around. So locking it up